Now, although the myth of Daphne and Apollo gives us this idea that Apollo is this massive creep, the version of the story that comes from Ovid's Metamorphoses is one of the most famous versions of the story, and it gives us a little bit of an explanation as to why Apollo does what he does, but trust that it does come around full circle back to creep again at the end. So the myth starts off, and Apollo is having an argument with Eros, the god of love. Both of them are very good at using a bow and arrow, but they cannot agree on whose reasoning is best for using a bow and arrow. Eros is like, well, I make people fall in love, what's better than that? And Apollo is saying, well, that's ridiculous, a bow and arrow is far better suited to battles and wars and the reasons that I use a bow and arrow. So Eros is like, okay, bet. And he shoots Apollo with a love arrow to make him fall in love with Daphne, a nymph who is devoted to the goddess Artemis. But at the same time, Eros also shoots a lead arrow at Daphne to make her hate the person who has just fallen in love with her. She's also a chaste follower of the goddess Artemis and had no intention of marrying anyway. So Apollo, now in love with Daphne, he begins chasing her. But she is having none of it. She's not interested in him at all. In fact, she hates him. But he keeps following her, saying, please, I love you so much. He's trying to convince her to be with him, saying, I'm the god of music and healing. I have this divine lineage. You should want to be with me. And as swift as Daphne is, she cannot outrun Apollo. And so she prays to her father Peneus, a river god, to get him to do something about this situation. And so her father Peneus starts transforming Daphne into a tree. Her body becomes the bark of a trunk, her arms become the branches, and eventually she has transformed entirely into the laurel tree. Apollo is devastated. He thought this was the love of his life. He can no longer have her. But he does say, well, if you cannot be my bride, you still will be mine. And he takes her laurel leaves and fashions them into a wreath. And he says, this will be the symbol of victory from now on. In other versions, he takes the bark of her trunk and turns it into his lyre, his favorite instrument, so that even though she rejected him, he could take her with him always. Creepy.